सिमरत वेद पार ब्रह्म गुर नाही पेद पार ब्रह्म गुर नाही पेद सतगुर मेरा दे मोहता नानक सो दे सिमरत वेद नानक सो दे सिमरत वेद पार ब्रह्म गुर नाही पेद पार ब्रह्म गुर नाही पेद सतगुर मेरा दे मोहता नानक सो दे
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to satsang. So nice to see all of you. What a beautiful morning to have satsang together in the name of the perfect ones and get all the blessings of Ishwar Ji, of Baba Sawan Singh, Sant Singh, Sant Kirpal Singh, and all the holy ones. So let me read the schedule to you. Today we have a poem by our very dear sister Harinder that we miss very much. So I'm looking forward for her seva. And then I'm gonna play a reading by Bhavani first, which is, the title is The Grace of the Guru, the Keeper of the Gates of Grace by the Sufi Center. And then I'm gonna have a talk And the subject of my talk is the dry spells. And if anybody wants to add or join or say their experience about dry spells that all the saints and master went through, including all of them. And Saint Kabir, Mirabai, all of them have poems about the pains of separation, about dry spells. So everybody goes through dry spells, even the greatest saints. So we'll talk about that. If also anybody decides to sing for master, they can let me know. But let's start with Harinder.
Hello, Radha Swami to all. Can you hear me, Michael? It's
Yes,
good.
Radha Swami. Hi. God morning.
Good morning. And so, actually, my poem is in Punjabi, and little bit I want to tell who don't understand Punjabi what is it. It's short poem. So, uh, actually, I wrote this poem when I was doing some work, and I was thinking, no, it's lots of work. I don't want to do anything. I just want to listen to satsang. Then I wrote this poem. So, the name of the poem in Punjabi is My Meri Aas, in English is My Hope. So it goes like this. You are my only hope. You are my conviction. You are my courage. Your name is my home. You are me. I am you. This faith is my protection. I am not afraid of any storm because your faith is my boat. I can feel your presence in air too. I can hear your voice in every voice. Presence of you in everything is a beautiful lullaby to me. You are my parent, and only you made this connection. The warmth of your love is a blessing in my life. My every task and every intention is your gift. My heart always wants to sing your song. I can see your form in every creation of this world. I'm doing my worldly affairs at your service only. So this is in English. Its meaning in English is like that. But in Punjabi is like this. मेरी आस और मेरा आसरा आस मेरी बस तू है विश्वास मेरा बस तू है तेरा साथ मेरा हौसला है तेरा नाम ही मेरा कौंसला है जिथे तू है उथे मैं हां बस ਇਹ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਮੇਰਾ ਆਸਰਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਸੇ ਤੂਫਾਨ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਡਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇਰੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੀ ਨਾਵ ਦਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਰਾਫਤਾ ਹੈ ਹਵਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਤੇਰਾ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਹੈ ਹਰ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇਰੀ ਆਵਾਜ਼ ਹੈ ਹਰ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਮੇਰੀ ਇੱਕ ਲੋਰੀ ਹੈ ਤੂੰ ਮਾਂ ਬਾਪ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਤੂੰ ਹੀ ਇਹ ਮੇਰੀ ਇੱਕ ਤਾਰ ਜੋੜੀ ਹੈ ਤੇਰੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੇ ਨਿੱਘਦੀ ਬੜੀ ਦਾਤ ਹੈ ਮੇਰਾ ਹਰ ਕੰਮ ਮੇਰੀ ਹਰ ਸੋਚ ਤੇਰੀ ਹੀ ਸੌਗਾਤ ਹੈ ਤੂੰ ਹੀ ਤੂੰ ਕਰਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਹਰ ਵੇਲੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਇਹ ਦਿਲ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਪਰ ਤੇਰਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਖਿਲੌਣਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੇਰਾ ਸੀ ਮੁਖ ਦਿਖਦਾ ਹੈ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਐਂਡ ਲਵ ਯੂ
Thank you, dear Sister Harinder. That's a beautiful poem. Um, thank you so much for your seva, and we're looking forward for much more seva from you.
Sure.
Cool.
Thank you.
So now I'll play our dear sister Bhavani. She has a talk, and then after her talk, I will talk about dry spells, and anybody who wants to join can join and give their what they think. Okay, cool.
Radhaswami, brothers and sisters, thank you so much for giving me Nishkam, selfless service, to be able to serve our beloved Papa Ishwar Ji, my master Maharaj Charan Singh, our beloved great master, and his blessings and his love to all of us. I'd like to thank all the Sevadas for their love and their dedication. And I'd also like to thank Brother Michael Ji for being an inspiration to all of us. The topic of the satsang is called The Grace of the Guru, the Keeper of the Gates of Grace. It's actually a message from the Golden Sufi Center, and it's in October 1988 by Vaughan Lee, published in the Light of the Conscious Journal. It starts off with a beautiful Persian song. The world was full of beautiful things until an old man with a beard came into my life and set my heart aflame with longing and made it pregnant with love. How can I look at the loveliness around me? How can I see it if it hides the face of my lover? Turning the heart. On the Sufi path, everything is given through the grace of the Sheikh. The Sufi term for spiritual master or guide. The Sheikh is the keeper of the gates of grace, and the wayfarer needs the grace to make the journey home, to become dissolved in love, lost in the infinite ocean of the beloved. That is why Sufi says that you need a guide, a master of this path of love. Only through his grace can you be turned inside out, transformed, melted, and merged into the divine oneness. On our own, we cannot make this journey. We neither know the way nor do we have the energy, the power to go beyond the mind and the ego. Without a sheikh, we would remain stranded, caught within the limited confines of our own identity. The moment we step upon the path, we step into the stream of energy, the stream of love that flows through our sheikh. This master, this love, is the divine power that will take us deep within ourselves, into the innermost chamber of our heart, the sacred place where our beloved is waiting for all of us. This love is the power that awakens the pain of longing, that burns away our impurities and prepares us for our beloved Master. Without this love, there is no journey. There is no fire to consume us. Without this grace, we will remain locked in the prison of ego, in the illusion of this world. He then explains the story, and he continues, when I was 19, I was invited to a lecture. Sitting in the row in the front of me was an old lady with her white hair tied up in a bun. After the lecture, I was introduced to this old lady, and she gave me one look from her piercing blue eyes. In that instant, I had the sensation of becoming just a speck of dust on the floor. I remembered nothing else of the first meeting with my teacher, but the next week I rang on her doorbell and I started attending the meditation meetings that were held in a small North London room. Only years later did I come to understand the significance of her first experience, how it enacted the state of annihilation in which the wayfarer becomes less than the dust in the feet of the teacher. Through a glance, a power was infused that gave me a foretaste of the path, of the process of destruction that was to be enacted within me during the following years. Without knowing anything about Sufism, I stepped into the energy of this path, into the grace that would transform me, the love that would take me back home. Every Friday evening, I would come to her small room. I would sit with few others, meditating, drinking tea, and listening to Mrs. Tweedy talk of a time with her sheikh, Bhai Sahib, an Indian Sufi master. I remember nothing of what was said. I only remember the tremendous tangible power of love that filled the room and the look in her eyes, the eyes of someone who has given herself totally to God. The energy in her room nourished me and fed the sacred hunger that had relentlessly pushed me to find a teacher. I knew that she had what I wanted. This knowing was never spoken in words, but felt in every cell of my body. In her presence, something inside of me opened, and I sensed the fragrance of truth. What is this power, this energy that does not belong to this world? Why do we need it? What calls us to it? How do we recognize us? To all of these questions, there is only one answer. The heart knows. Sufis work through the heart. They understand the secret mysteries of the heart and how the power of divine love can activate this inner organ of higher consciousness. Through the heart, we are given the energy we need for this journey. The disciple progresses through love, and love is the driving force, the greatest power of creation. As the disciple has not enough love in him to have sufficient of propelling power to reach the goal, so love is increased or created simply by activating the heart chakra. The process of activating the heart chakra can only be done by a master of the path, by someone who understands the way of love and who is given permission to do this work. Through the energy of that path flows through the sheikh, this ancient work is done. In the words of a Sufi master, we are simple people, but we can turn the heart of a human being so that the human being will go on when nobody can even imagine it. Stepping into the presence of the teacher, we step into the power of the path, the power that in the Sufi tradition is passed down through the succession from one master to the other master. When Rumi met a wandering dervish in the marketplace, he fell at his feet and was swept into the currents of love. The presence of this ragged mystic, Shams, changed Rumi from a respected professor of theology into a lover of God, one who summed up his whole life with the phrase, I burnt and I burnt and I burnt. The power of love awakens us to the quest and turns us away from this world and takes us home. The power is His love for us, and the whole of the mystical journey can be summed up by the words, He loves them and they love Him. The glance of His love touches our heart and awakens the hidden depth of our love for Master. This is the circle of oneness that takes us back home, the arena of love in which we die to one self. The Sheikh is the guardian of the gates of love. His glances carries the potency of a divine lover, and in his presence we can taste the mystery of our deepest nature. My teacher described the Master as a transformer of divine power. If we were to directly access the Absolute, we would be destroyed by its tremendous unlimited power. Just as a transformer is needed to make electricity in a high voltage and usable in our house without blowing every fuse, so does the Master give us access to the divine energy in amounts that we can assimilate. The energy is given from heart to heart, from soul to soul. The Master has access to the place within our heart that belongs to God, the hearts of heart. Our Master has the key to the secret chamber, and as the agent of the Beloved awakens our memory of being together with Him, the work of the Masters is to ignite the spark within the heart, and then to keep it burning and burning until it remains in His love. Love has moved in and adorned the house. Myself tied up in its bundle and left. You imagine that you see me, but I no longer exist. What remains is only the Beloved. We are given the energy we need to do this work. The power is infused from the heart of the Master into the heart of the wayfarer. Gradually the heart of the wayfarer opens, allowing the love to flow more and more. He continues saying, once I was sitting beside my teacher. When she was lecturing, I felt such love drawing me to her, penetrating deep into my heart. In the interval, I turned to her and said how much love I felt, to which she replied, that is good. It means your heart is open. I can now work with you. At the beginning, it is usually necessary to be in the physical presence of the Master for this work to be done. This is the reason for satsang, to be in the presence of the teacher. The sheikh lives the connection to the path. His soul is merged with the soul of his sheikh. In his presence, the wayfarer has access to the power of the path. As Bhai Sahib explains, think of a bungalow in which the electricity has been installed. The wires are there, the lamps and the switches are there, all the bulbs are in place, but there's no connection to the powerhouse, for there is a medium that is needed, which in case would be the engineer. In spiritual life, it is the same. A medium is a connecting link. It is needed to get the power from the power station. Therefore, satsang is of utmost importance. It is essential. The presence of a teacher is a connection to which the wayfarer can be given the energy that is needed to keep the fire of the heart burning, to keep the attention on the goal despite the distractions of the world. My teacher said the coming to the meditation meeting was like recharging our batteries. Moreover, although regular attendance is desirable, however, once the connection is made, the physical presence of the Master is not always necessary. On the Sufi path, the power, the grace is given from heart to heart, from soul to soul, because the soul does not belong to space and time. The grace can be given on an inner plane, independent of outer circumstances. In some instances, it's not even necessary to make our physical connection. Bhai Sahib says, many of my disciples have never seen me in their lives, and they never came here. They are treated just the same, and they get the same as everybody else. Satsang is essential, yet a physical connection is not necessary. Deeper than any outer form is the duty of the Guru. The Guru is duty bound. He gives what is demanded according to the need. Each wayfarer is treated individually, as I once was shown in a dream, where I had to find a pot for cooking. We are each given what we need, the inner and the outer circumstances that provides us with the optimal opportunity to realize the truth. I'd like to end the satsang with a beautiful poem called Through the Grace of Our Master, We Learn How to Become Nothing, to give ourselves totally to our Beloved. From heart to heart, this transmission is given as we have emptied ourselves so that we can become filled with our beloved. The lover must be like a dead body in the hands of the beloved. How is the dead body helpless? It is. If it is put into the rain, it gets wet. If it's put into the sun, it gets hot. It cannot rebel. It cannot protest. It is by the grace of the Guru that we are learning how to be always content in the hands of the beloved. Radha Swami, thank you.
सिमरत बेद नानक सोदै सिमरत बेद पार ब्रह्म गुर नाही पेद पार ब्रह्म गुर नाही पेद सतगुर मेरा बेमोहता तापै नानक सोदै सिमरत बे
I had to play that clip for those who missed it. It's just so, it's like a treasure to the eyes, just to look at our Holy Father walking, looking at Baba Sawan Singh fully living in him, walking, the majesty of God. Wow. It's just, this is satsang, just to look at Master like that and fill our buckets with love, with his love that is ever present every moment in our life, because he lives in us. Once we met him, he took place in our heart. Bhavani, thank you, dear sister, for your great satsang, and the love that you have for our Holy Father is unfathomable. He lives in you, and when you read those holy words, it is Master pouring the love on all of us. Thank you for your seva, and looking forward for more and more and more. And yes, unbreakable, O Lord, is the love that binds me to you. Unbreakable, O Lord, is the love that binds me to you. And that is just like Bhavani was saying, when the old man with the beard appeared in her life, and when the old man with the beard and the turban appeared in my life, Sant Singh, he totally mesmerized me. He stole my heart. And once he stole my heart, then my mind, my body, my intellect, all of them are being slowly surrendered to him. This process is a slow process of surrendering. But once the heart is caught from the first glance of the master, the process starts. And this process is a long process. It's a long process. If a professor has to go, if a doctor has to go through 20 years or more in college to become a doctor, and the professor has to go even more, and some professions even take more. So imagine how long it takes to become a total person, to reach totality of consciousness and become like Ishwar Ji or Baba Sawan Singh. It's a process, and it's a long road. And in this road, we go through dry spells. And I had a question from a dear brother of mine, and I'm gonna read his question, and we're gonna answer. I will answer. I will read poems. I will answer from my experience and what the saints say. But whatever he's going through, we're all going through. It's not just one person. The saints all of them went through it. And he's saying, greetings, Brother Michael. I have a question that has been bothering me, and I hope you will be able to provide me some help. Master shows himself to me in glimpses, and those are wonderful moments in meditation. But then there are times when I can't see him at all. and that makes me extremely restless. These dry periods are very painful and can sometimes last days or weeks. And believe me, making more effort does not help much. How can a disciple live through and navigate through these harsh times? Wow, this question is the question of all of us. Sometimes my master Sant Singh used to say that a new initiate that just got initiated right now sometimes have more experience than an initiate who has been on the path for 25 years. Why is that? Why is that? Why do we go through dry spells? And why does master show himself sometimes and then stop showing himself? And there is an answer for that, many answers for that. And Baba Sawan Singh also, I will read to you what he answered. Sant Kirpal answered this question. And Saint Kabir, Mirabai says, only they know the bitterness of love who has deeply felt its pangs. So these pains of separation that we go through are messengers. Listen to them carefully. These pains are messengers. Listen to them carefully. Rumi says, you have to keep breaking your heart until it opens. You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens. So for the lovers of God, those who had a glimpse outside of Father God in the form of the Master, and those who had a glimpse of Him inside. And then what happens when we have a glimpse of royalty, when we have a glimpse of majesty, when we see the divine in front of us, what happens? There is so much love, an ocean of love poured on our souls. And that love is so nourishing, it's so satisfactory, it fills every pore in our body. And we want it more. It's like a drug. It's like a drug. It's like a godly drug. Being in the presence of the Master is like a godly drug. And the lovers of God want that drug every moment, every moment, every moment. They want the drug. And what is that drug? It is seeing the Master. Seeing the Master. I just played his video. We all saw him. And we didn't want it to end, really. We saw Ishwar Ji walking. Our eyes were like the night bird who restlessly watches the moon, who restlessly watches the moon as the night passes by. And Mira says that she is lost in God, just like that bird is watching the moon, the passing moon all night long. She's also lost in the love of God. And and to be lost in love of God, to be lost in love of God and want to see him every moment. Whenever we don't see him, whenever we go through dry spells, it is very painful. And that is why Rumi says that the heart have to keep breaking until it opens. It has to keep breaking. Those pains of separation, those pains of separation bring the tears. They bring the tears. They bring those tears, and those tears are like jewels. They are they are so priceless that the angels come to collect them from the lovers of God that are weeping because they miss the beloved. They miss the beloved outside, they miss the beloved inside. And those tears are the answer. Those tears, those tears that come down like a sawan rain, they are the blessing. They are the blessing. They are the blessing that will open ultimately the gate and bring the union. That we have to go through this. Everybody goes through this. And I'm going to read some poetry from Saint Kabir, from Mira, and it's all about those moments of dryness. But what hurts you is your cure. What hurts us is our cure. What hurts us ends up to be our blessing. And the same thing, those pains of separation that hurt end up to be the biggest blessing. So Baba Sawan Singh says that we go through these ups and downs. These ups and downs, it's due to our karma. due to our karma. When we are going through some bad karma, then what happens? What is bad karma really? Bad karma is when we forget the Lord and we are engrossed in the material world. This is like some hard karma. To me, any moment that I forget the Lord, it is a hard karma. Why is it a hard karma? Because I'm forgetting the Lord. So when we forget the Lord, and we're engrossed in the material world, we go through dry periods. Why? Because that receptivity is lost. Once the receptivity is lost, then we go through these hard periods. We have to keep keep meditation regularly. We have to keep Simran regularly, and we have to keep thinking of the Lord regularly. We have to keep doing seva in whatever we can, in whatever way we can, and that keeps the grace coming. And when if we abide in God, if my words abide in you, you abide in me. If my words abide in you, you abide in me, are the words of Jesus Christ. So when the Master's word abide in us and we live according to what he is teaching, and we do not veer off to the left or to the right, forward or backward, we just stay abiding in his commandments, then we see him more inside. And that is the great blessings. That's a great blessings. But sometimes the karma changes. And we don't see him as much. So it's all due to karma. Also, there is a big reason. Why saints and masters do not remove the curtain. They don't remove the curtain, because if they remove the curtain, then we don't go through our karma. We don't go through our give and take, because once we see divinity inside fully, then what happens? Then we want to just close our eyes and forget about this world, and then keep just enjoying the bliss. And then what happens? Then we don't go through our karma, and then we might have to come back again. So this is why they limit us. Another thing why they limit the experience is the ego. If we start having experiences, then we will think we are perfect, then we will think that we are divine. And if that happens, then that will be an obstruction to the course of totality. Ishwar Puri Ji told many that he will not remove the veil, he will not remove the blinders till totality. For some period, for some people, he removes the blinders before, due to their setup, and he removes the blinders in the Par Brahm, and they could enjoy the Par Brahm, they could enjoy their life as soul. But for others, he said that he will not remove the blinders till totality. I heard it in one of his satsangs lately. That he said, for some, the blinders are removed when they become total. So everybody has a different setup. Everybody has a different karma. And according to that karma, we have the experience. But from my experience on this path for all these years, that we have to surrender to whatever master gives us. If he gives us dry season, then we have to accept it, and we have to fold our hand. But we know that he is inside of us. We know he is there. We know he is blessing. And then that dry period will make us work harder, will make us put more and more and more effort. Effort transmutes into grace, and grace pulls us inside. Then we have the darshan of the master, the drishti of the master from within. When that happens, when the lover sees the beloved, oh my God, it's the greatest thing. That is the greatest thing, that the real lovers of God will not exchange that drishti from within for all the treasures of the three worlds. For all the treasures of the three worlds, they will not exchange for the drishti of the inner master, because that's how valuable it is. It is worth the whole creation. It is worth all the three worlds, and whatever the three worlds offer in pleasure and pain, that is not worth just 1 second of looking at the inner master. The true lovers of the Lord will not exchange that with one moment. So let me read to you a poem from Kabir. about his pains of separation. And that is the great master, Kabir, who wrote, and Rumi too. They all wrote about the pangs of separation and then union. And so I'm gonna read to you some beautiful stuff. Um, 1 second. This poem of Saint Kabir is called The Screen. Between me and thee, O Lord, the screen still exists. How can I get a glimpse of thee? And without seeing thee, dear Lord, how can my aching heart find solace? Is it I that am a worthless slave, or thou that art callous to my suffering? Of the two of us, my Lord, pray tell me who is at fault. Without seeing thee, dear Lord, how can my aching heart find solace? Thou art called the Lord of all. Thou art the bestower of all boons. Thy devotees beg and long for. Yet between me and thee, O Lord, the screen still exists. How can I get a sight of thee? Kabir begs for a glimpse of thee. Pray, summon him to thy feet, or hasten to meet him, dear Lord. For without seeing thee, beloved, how can my aching heart find solace? Wow, this is Saint Kabir, and he is also going through the pains of separation. Those pains of separation led to his union with God. And then I'm going to read to you more. And from Baba Sawan Singh. Oh, let me share the screen so you can see with me. Oh, 1 second. Where is the screen? Look at this guy's head. That's dry spells in meditation, why they happen and how to survive them. And look at this picture. This picture says it all. This picture of this lover of God, oh, of this lover of God, just putting his hand on his head is our situation when we go through dry periods. This is how we become. We become like sad and depressed. Like, where are you, Father God? I haven't seen you. Am I doing something wrong? Come on, show yourself to me. Greed for enlightenment and immortality is no different than greed for material wealth. It is self-centered and dualistic, and thus an obstacle to true attainment. Therefore, these states are never achieved by those who covet them. Rather, they are the reward of the virtuous. Let's read more. The spiritual journey does not unfold in a linear fashion. Yes, correct, 100%. But rather is marked by a series of alterning states of light and darkness, of feeling, of receptivity with our master, alternating with feelings of absence and discouragement. The state of spiritual ennui is called dry spells or spiritual aridity. Aridity may last for days, weeks, months, or years. They can produce feelings ranging from mild discouragement to severe depression, from sadness to despair. If we understand why dry spells are a necessary part of our journey to God, we are less likely to be shaken and depressed when they occur. If we take the advice of the spiritual masters, we can pass through these negative experiences unscathed. Sometimes I am plunged to the depth, at other times raised on high. Sometimes I experience the scar of separation, at others the garden of union. Your awesome majesty may threaten many of us, yet no lips will part in even a sigh of complaint. This is a Sufi master, Sharafuddin. This booklet contains, among other writings, Sant Kirpal Singh and Baba Sawan Singh, explanation of karma as a source of spiritual dry spells. this guy, Evelyn, provides an in-depth explanation of aridity as an accompaniment to purification and eventual self-surrender. It's part of the purification that we go through and self-surrender. And then it says Sant Rajinder Singh emphasizes the importance of gratitude, acceptance, and receptivity. And Sant Darshan Singh explains how patience and perseverance lead to the elimination of ego and the achievement of perfect surrender. So these dry periods help eradicate our ego. Why? Because then we know that we are nothing, really. We are nothing, and to know that we are nothing, that takes our ego away. So this dry periods that we go through really cuts the throat of our ego, and that's what is needed, that our ego's throat be cut. And when that ego, which is the last thing to go, when the throat of ego is cut, then union is attained. So we're all in the process of cutting the throat of our ego, or Master's grace cuts the throat of our ego. Sometimes I am intoxicated by the sweetness of union with you. Sometimes I'm crushed by the blow of your departure. As soon as I put aside the grief of separation from you, immediately I feel the urge to continue loving you. Wow, another. And then here's the reaction of karma. And that's from Sant Kirpal Singh and Baba Sawan Singh. So let's read what Sant Kirpal Singh and what Baba Sawan Singh says about the reaction of past karma. I'm glad to find that you are devoting some time for your holy meditations with the grace of the Master. The causal spells of dryness or vague feelings do intervene as a result of reaction of past karma, when the child disciple should muster more of courage and determination in sticking to the sacred schedule of regularity. It should be pointed out for your information that during such period, the loving protection of the Master becomes more stronger as you have felt with his grace. So these dry periods also are full of the protection and the loving of the Master. When the time of very favorable karma comes, only then the minds feel inclined to go within. And only then the love for the Master and the sound current springs up, and one spends some time in devotion. On the other hand, when the disturbing karma intervenes, mind feels dry and indifferent, runs away from satsang, and sinks back in the quagmire of the world. It takes time to remove the layers of karmic dirt deposited through innumerable births. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says freedom from karma is attained after a long succession of lives spent rightly on the path. Baba Sawan Singh, The Dawn of Light, letter 69. Although in our heart we may persuade ourselves that we have eliminated desire, yet it is not correct, because as long as the karma is not washed away, which happens at the second stage, only the spiritual progress is only by fits and starts and not uniform. Just like an ant ascending a wall. Until those karmas are burnt, it cannot be said that the practitioner has abandoned desire. Baba Sawan Singh. Wow. Do your duty and expect nothing. Leave the results to Master. Baba Sawan Singh. Wow, I love this. Do your duty and expect nothing. Leave the results to the Master. This is pure surrenderance. To just do our duty, meditate, do seva, think of Master, whatever he brings from inside or outside, accept it and expect nothing. Accept, as Ishwar Ji says, accept and do not expect. Accept and do not expect, Ishwar Ji says. And the same, leave the results to the Master. That, wow, look at Sant Kirpal, how beautiful he is. So, um, I'll read a little bit more. The intervening dry spells in meditation, which the spiritual aspirants find sometimes, are a blessing in disguise. When the inner devotion is fostered for a higher step, you need not worry about it, but instead be earnestly devoted to your holy meditations. With renewed zeal and vigor, the gracious Master Power will be extending all feasible help, grace, and protection. Sant Kirpal Singh. So, hold on, I'm going to stop share. So there's a lot written more and more about dry spells. But as you can see, dry spells are blessings in disguise. It just ignites our holy fire, kills our ego, because if we get all the experiences while we are not pure yet, then we are stuck on the path. He has to make us pure in order for us to see him 24/7. 24/7, like Ishwar Ji saw Baba Sawan Singh 24/7. He had access to him whenever he wants. How did that state be attained? It's when there is total purification. When the mind is totally pure and there's no desires. That part of it is that we still have attachments and desires. Some of them we know, and some of them we do not know. Master will reveal them to us. They are so subtle. Some of those desires and attachments are so subtle that we do not know them. We do not know them until Master shows them to us. So he will show them to us, then he will clean them. But there is a lot of stuff in us that we have collected from this life and from so many lives that has to go out, that has to be purified. Some hidden desires and some desires that have fallen off. That so many of our desires over all these years that we have been on the path of love have been washed out. And we are saying, thank you, Master. Because some of those desires were really detrimental to our path. And some of those attachments were roasting us in fires of attachments we roasted. Those have been removed after so many years of being on the path of love, so many years. And there's still more. And he will keep purifying us until we become 24 carats, 24 karat gold. When we become 24 karat gold, the purest, pure at heart are the ones that shall see God. When we become like a godly diamond, what happens to the godly diamond when a hammer hits it? The hammer breaks. Wow, I read that somewhere. I loved it. That when we become like a godly diamond, when the negative power tries to hit us, it breaks itself. And this is what happens with the true lovers of God when they become so powerful in God, when they become so lost in the love of God, when they just lose themselves totally in the love of God, they become like a godly, divine diamond that whenever the negative power tries to attack us, tries to hit us, it breaks itself. This is what will happen. So this is what I had to say about the dry spells. There's a lot more. If anybody wants to add to it, Dr. Chand or Prempal Ji or Vishesh Ji or Dietrich Ji or whoever wants, Gurcharan, whoever wants to add something, they could add. Otherwise, we'll play master.
Well, I would like to say a few points here.
Wonderful, Dr. Chand. I'm so glad.
Because, sometimes you see the master and sometimes you don't. You have not to worry about this. Because worrying is really not helping you. Now, this is what the master wants. Once you have been initiated, and all the job is of the master then whatever he shows you, or sometimes he does not. So to feel that being sad, is not allowed. Because you are here. Happily, you got to go through this. Of course, all that, what Michael said, is all relevant. And the master is knowing. And then he wants to do this with that zeal, one should not get discouraged due to that. Because you are doing your job, you sit for a while and forget about it. You are doing your part, and then you are living in his will. As always I say, that one has to live with the divine attributes. If you ignore the ignorant mind, because this is what mind is making you sad. So you got to learn how to ignore the ignorant mind. And once you are able to do this, you won't be sad anymore because you have ignored that part. You are already, the soul is the purest thing, and it remains connected with this source all the time, 24/7, because that chord of Shabad, which we call as audible stream of life, is running this system. It energizes the mind, and only then the mind jumps on it and creates all those confusions and makes you sad, And the same energy, your Shabad, is operating the body as well. So it energizes mind and body both. But once you know you have been initiated, then, no worries at all, because he has taken all your worries. As there is a line, Teri chinta main mandhari, tum raho achint pyare. Means all your worries are mine now, and you remain worryless, no worries. So this is what gives you a more ability to see him within. Once you give your attention to the mind will always bother you. So the beauty is that the Dayal, the Absolute, is merciful. So whatever you do, he will forgive. And every now and then he forgives you. And if you just don't give attention to this mind, this ignorant mind, I say, ignore the ignorant mind, will definitely help you keeping happy. And tera bhana meetha lage means the way he keeps you, you got to live in that. If he's not showing you, but you know that you are connected all the time. And the master's energy is running this system, as Michael said, that it's a karma part. We got to go through those karmas. But don't get sad, As soon as you become sad, the karma is operative. It drags you down into those sorrows. And if you can keep yourself by not giving attention to the mind, then you are in a happy position all the time. So I just clarified what I thought. And thank you, Michael, for asking me to do this. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chan. I read something so beautiful today. Master keeps sending me beautiful quotes and all kinds of godly stuff, all by his grace. But I read that Master dissolves the fear of the terrified.
Yeah.
Isn't that so beautiful? That he dissolves the fear of the terrified if they come to him.
Yes, he does.
That in this horrible world of darkness, only your light can save me. Only your light can save me. And Master dissolves the fear of the terrified. So
if you keep looking for that light, you forget about everything. So all those worries and karmas are just dissolved, They won't affect you. Of course, you will have to go through, as it is said, that you were to be hanged, but a small little pinprick will take care of the karma. So if you are connected to your source, nothing happens. You live a happy life ever after. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So now we can listen to our Holy Father, Ishwar Ji, and dance in his love and meditate together and melt in him together. All right.
Thank you.
Better than what you said. Now I'm going to practice your method seriously. And then I practice seriously. And I said, why should I meditate? He says, meditate for 2.5 hours. You'll see something. Why 2.5 hours? I went to him, is there a time limit that you cannot meditate more? He said, there's no time limit. Whatever time you get is good. So I went on a yoga of obstinacy, which I had practiced earlier, called Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga. Hatha means obstinate. Yoga of obstinacy I began to practice on Great Master teaching. 8 hours time. No break. I said, whatever is there, if there is something to find, I must find it. And if there's nothing, I will expose the whole thing. It's all made up. It's all just a story. It's just a hoax being played by people calling themselves gurus and calling themselves masters. And there is nothing to it, because they say if you practice withdrawing your attention, you will find this. Great Master kept on saying, this is not blind faith. This is not believing somebody. It's believing your own experience. Go within and find out. And then he would quote from all the religious texts, original texts. The Bible says, the kingdom is within you. The other texts say, the original sound is the sound that created this world. The oldest Rig Veda of the Indian Vedas, the old texts, Sanskrit texts, say that the original creation took place because of the nad, the sound. The John's Gospel says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. How can all these different scriptures, all these different fountainheads of religion say the same thing? And who has practiced it? Who has gone inside to see if there is such a thing as a word, or a sound, or a nad, or a shabad? I said, this has to be found out. You can't have blind faith. You must see it yourself. Well, I made some progress, but I also gradually found that when you make that kind of effort, which I was trying, there is a big obstacle on the way. And that obstacle is your own thinking, your own mind. I discovered that the mind, which is supposed to be a great help to us, the thinking mind should be able to rationalize, think out, make a good effort, was itself the creator of doubt and fear. Since then, I've seen most people, my friends, when they are on a path, they suffer from the same problem. That their mind, the thinking process, is creating doubt and fear. And I wondered why there should be doubt about these things. But the mind, the nature of the mind, human mind, is to create a doubt. It's not something unusual. The mind is designed to do it. As I discovered later on, that the mind, by its thinking process, does not always clarify things, because it has a limited data on which it works. The mind is a logical machine. It works on logic. And as some of you who might have studied logic know, that logic is of two kinds, the deductive logic and the inductive logic. The deductive logic only deduces things, comes to conclusions based upon what is fed to the mind. You can say, there's a white wall here in front of me. This is part of the wall, therefore it's white. That deductive knowledge. There is no additional knowledge that you get through deductive logic. And the mind does not go beyond what is already known. The inductive logic is a guesswork. It speculates. This wall is white. This wall goes around a corner which I cannot see. Presumably, probably, it is also white. It's an inductive method. It is uncertain. What kind of activity of the mind can give me certainty? There was nothing that would give me certainty. Today the mind says, this is very clear. Tomorrow a new factor comes in, I learn something new, and the old conclusion becomes absolutely wrong. So I discovered that the mind creates doubt by its very nature, by its very function. The mind functions in a very unique way, that it creates time and space for us. It creates thinking in us, and through thinking, it picks up the sense perceptions and translates for us. It took me some time to know that the mind is what sees things, what hears things, touches things. All sense perceptions are merely stimuli that come to us. The mind tells what it is. If I saw a painting, I can't know it's a painting. I see just blobs of color. I see different perception of sight. I look at it, the mind converts it and says, that's a nice painting. The interpretation of all sense perceptions is being done by the mind. Because the sense perceptions keep on changing, the perception they're getting, the mind keeps on changing the interpretation. It didn't take me very long to find how unreliable the mind is to seek anything of reality or clarity. Therefore, I have to find something else. What else is there? I found that most of us are misled into believing that we are the mind, that our consciousness consists of nothing else but the thinking self, that the thinking self is I, and that's what the self is. We totally forget that there is some part of us which is conscious, knows it is there, and does not depend upon thinking. For example, intuition, the flash of gut knowledge that you get suddenly, there's no process of thinking involved in that. And yet you know, sometimes the gut feeling seems to override what the thinking mind is saying. The mind says, don't do this, gut feeling, I have to do it. Why? I don't know why. The thinking mind is saying, don't do it, and the gut feeling says, do it. Or the reverse. The thinking mind says, do it. The gut feeling is, no, it's not right. Whether you call it the conscience speaking inside, whether you say second mind speaking inside, a higher mind speaking inside, there's obviously something else that does not require the process of thinking and yet is conscious in yourself. This was a very big discovery for me and made very clear by the great master in his explanations to me. He said, we do not have only the mind, we have the soul and the mind. They are not the same thing. The soul of a human being is pure consciousness. It does not require thinking. It can function on its own. And its own functions are intuition, love, beauty, joy. Only the soul can experience these. The mind cannot. The mind can do thinking, rationalization, logic, interpretation, but it cannot do. It cannot create love. It cannot create intuitive knowledge. It cannot create the sense of beauty and joy and bliss that we get. That's so. Once we knew the distinction, also we found out the mind functions only in time and space. Even the smallest thought takes duration, takes time. Intuition, soul functions outside of it. It gives you instant knowledge, instant feeling. There's no time involved. Mind functions in time and space. The soul, the spirit of a human being, which is pure consciousness, can function without it. Once this distinction was made, and very clear that there is a mind and a soul, then who are we? Are we mind or souls? It doesn't take very long to discover that mind was merely an accessory, a little machine added to ourselves, like a little computer we are carrying in our heads. The mind is like a computer. Whatever we put into it, it processes and gives us results. But the soul, the consciousness is the real self. That is the powerhouse that makes the mind work, that makes the senses work, that makes this body work. Our life force, our real life, our real consciousness is the soul, not the mind. Once that came into my knowledge, and great master emphasized it, that don't forget, you are the soul, not the mind. What will happen then? Do not be led by the mind, lead the mind. The process is very simple. His teaching then became very clear to me that we have been led by the mind all our life. The thoughts dictate to us what we should do. Instead of that, our gut feeling should dictate what to do and tell the mind to think like that and do it. It's the soul that should take decisions and the mind should implement them. This was a reversal of our ordinary way of living. Ordinarily, we think what to do and then somehow hope that destiny will take us along that path. Something else will take us. Our consciousness will follow it. We were putting the mind ahead and the soul to follow. The truth was that if you want to find out the reality of who you are, you must put the soul ahead and then instruct the mind what to do. So meditation became a very simple exercise. Meditation was soul giving a direction to the mind, do this. Then I understood what the whole process of initiation was. That why do we repeat mantras? Why do we repeat words? It is not that because those words are specially a mantra, which of course they may be, but we don't know. At least the initial function of repetition of words that we don't even understand. The initial function is that the mind should be instructed to think on those words and squeeze out other words of thought. It's a control over the mind. So by repetition of words, you can squeeze out the thoughts that otherwise take us astray. It's the thoughts that take us away from ourselves. Every time we think of something, it has an association of ideas outside of ourselves. We think of our children, our work, our business, our friends, associates, our worries about concerns and worries about what's going to happen. Every time we have a thought like that, it takes us away from our own center. We are never actually sitting in our own head. Our consciousness is proceeding from our head. Our attention flows from there. And we never spend any time there. Through our thinking process, we are spending all our time outside. And therefore, the meditational process became simple. It's just an act of withdrawing your attention, withdrawing your consciousness from everything outside and putting it back on yourself to discover who you are as a soul, not as the mind, not as the body, not as sense perceptions. So this was then a clear method that Great Master was able to explain in so many ways as time went on. So when I was in it was the 40s, about 1942, when I had my last question and answer session with the Great Master. I said, Master, I have one more question to ask you. That was about experiences that were being generated by his method of meditation. From 43, I never asked any question. All questions were answered internally. I tell people, do you know all your questions have their answers inside you? There is not a single question that you can ask of which the answer does not lie inside you. When we ask somebody else for an answer, we are only verifying that the answer inside us is correct. When somebody gives us an answer that makes no sense, we reject it. If somebody says something, say, I knew that, that's it. Then we're just getting a verbal confirmation of the answer that was already in us. But through the meditational techniques of the Great Master teaching, you're able to see the answers before you even ask them. The answers even precede before you can put the questions. Therefore, you discover that answers to all questions of your mind are sitting inside you. And all you have to go is to go to the point where the answers lie, which is the mental region of experience, which means that there are many regions of experience that we can have access to through meditation. The regions of experience are the physical experience of the physical world. We are all sitting here in a physical world. Our body is physical, material, and through the body and our sense perceptions and our thoughts, we are connected to the rest of the physical material world. If we were not material, there would be no material world around us. Our physical body connects us and gives us the experience of a physical material world. This is a level of consciousness. We are experiencing consciousness by being conscious of a physical world. If we withdraw our attention in this body, if we just withdraw our attention within ourselves to the point from where it looks like attention is flowing out and connecting us with the world outside, if we just withdraw our attention to the point from where we can notionally see our attention is flowing out, which is the head. It doesn't take very long to introspect and see, am I putting my attention from my hands, from my feet? Of course, they're too far removed from my head. You can, just by thinking about it, just by introspection, find out that the attention, which is the movable part of consciousness, which is the manipulative part of consciousness, which you can move here or there, put your attention here or there, or not put your attention here or there. That part is flowing out from your head, through the eyes, through the thinking process. It all takes place in the head. Therefore, when you close your eyes, you are still there. The feeling that as a conscious being, if you're just a conscious dot existing, where are you existing? You discover it is the head, behind the eyes, and the rest of it is attached to you as a physical body. Therefore, the right place to withdraw your attention would be the great master said, the truth is, the door to all inner perception lies inside the head, behind the eyes. If you want to experience all these things we're talking of different levels of experiences and consciousness, the door to open those levels is right behind the eyes in your head. Put your attention there. We haven't realized that since we were born, we have always put our attention outside. There has been no occasion for us to put our attention inside. We are used to focusing our attention. When you focus your attention, it is always external to yourself. We've never been taught to withdraw attention. We know how to put attention on things. Put your attention on this book. Put your attention on this subject. Put your attention on what I am saying. But we've never been taught how to withdraw the attention to your own self inside the head, behind the eyes. The process that the great master's teaching began to teach me and I learned over time was that the withdrawal of attention is a totally different subject. It's a totally different way of doing things. This process is different than putting your attention. By focusing attention on anything, you are putting your attention out of yourself, not withdrawing, not discovering who you are. Therefore, the great master taught how to withdraw your attention to yourself. And that's to pull back your attention to where it's flowing from. It takes some practice. It takes some doing to discover that the point where you are having this experience of putting your attention on things is not only behind the eyes, it's at a middle point between the eyes and behind it. If my two fingers represent the two eyeballs, where the two fingers meet on my hand, if you see this is almost exactly the place. If you contemplate, where is your attention flowing from? That's the place behind the eyes in the center. If we know that much, then we can proceed forward with the practice of withdrawing attention to ourselves. And we do it by a very interesting process. The process which we all use without knowing it is called imagination. If you imagine you are there, attention goes there. Supposing you imagine you are sitting in that corner of a room, your attention will go there. If you imagine you are sitting on top of this house, your attention will go there. Wherever you are imagining you are going, attention is pulled there automatically. So this becomes a simple method to imagine that you are sitting inside your head, behind the eyes. Make this head of yours, the forehead as a wall in front, and these ears by either side of a beautiful room. And this body is like a mansion, and it has many floors. The sixth floor is behind the eyes, sitting in the sixth floor, and you're pulling your attention to where you believe is the center of the head. This exercise alone, without doing anything else, will open up a door and give you experiences that you never had before. It's amazing that the thing was so simple, and yet it looks so difficult. The simplicity affected me very much. This is such a simple thing that we have to withdraw attention to the point from where it's flowing out. And it's flowing from that point. That point has been addressed in all the spiritual books that I've seen, called the third eye. If that eye be single, that whole body shall be filled with light. If you have a point behind your eyes, you'll see the truth. All the scriptures say in different ways that there's a third eye. There's a point behind the eyes where true light lasts. If you can reach that point by withdrawing attention, your whole body gets filled with light. You see a light which you've never seen outside this world. We are all full of light. Our own soul, which I'm talking about, the consciousness, is full of light. You see actual light at a level that you can't even see with these eyes. A simple mechanical way of pulling your attention behind the eyes can create this kind of experience. And the doors then open up to all other levels. What happens if you are steady enough to keep your attention behind the eye and keep it there, sustain it there? What would happen? You begin to find that you don't know where your hands and feet are. It's just a practice. If you go to a concert, and in the concert there are many musical instruments playing, and you see the drums playing and the trumpets playing. Say, I like the drums. Put your attention on the drums. The drums become louder. The trumpets become weaker. They have not changed their bass, not volume. Your attention can pick up on anything and make that more aware of yourself, and the other thing less aware. When you put your attention within yourself, the attention automatically is withdrawn from everything else. Starting with the rest of the world, you forget you because your attention is here. You want to think about what is happening behind the eyes, not the rest of the world. You forget your worries, you forget your cares, you forget attachments. You are experimenting with the withdrawal of attention to yourself. Later on, you even begin to forget where your body is. And the interesting part is that when you withdraw your attention in meditation behind the eyes, the withdrawal of awareness of the body is very gradual. And you'll notice, first part is you don't know where your hands are, where your feet is. You don't know if you put your hands here, your eyes closed, your attention is there. Are my hands here? My hands here, I don't know where they are. I don't know where the feet are. Are they like this or like this? That's the first beginning, showing that your attention is being withdrawn inside. If you sustain that process, you forget the whole body where it is. And yet, when you don't know where your whole body is, you are fully aware of everything. You can see clearly, more clearly than you can see with these eyes. You can fly, walk around. You have another body. You have a body similar to this one, that's not bound by gravity, that's not bound by the limitations of this body. And yet, it is you, the same self. It's the same self. It opens up just by becoming unaware of the outer cover of this physical body. You can carry out this process again and again through every cover of yours. The physical body being the first cover. The second body, which they call sensory body or astral body, has all the sense perceptions of this body, in fact more acutely working. And you can withdraw attention even within that body and become unaware of that. And then the mind alone becomes your body. And you find that the mind, the thinking mind, was not merely a thinking machine. It was actually a casing around you. And it has no shape like this. Yet, within that, you get experiences that you can never have with the physical body. The experience of how you became a physical body. The experience of what is the law of cause and effect, the law of karma that makes your destinies in this body. You discover all that. It's all lying there. Nobody is going to put it there. It's already there. You just have to discover it. You discover through your mind, through the universal mind, that all minds that we think of are people's minds, are proceeding from the same machine, the universal machine, creating that. You don't stop there. Most of the teachers of spirituality in the world have stopped there or below that. There are very few teachers who will go beyond the mind because they do not distinguish between the mind and the soul. Those who go beyond the mind reach a perfection of spirit, and we call them perfect living masters. The perfect living masters say, you have reached the end of your mental state, but you have not reached yourself. You are beyond the mind. Therefore, the causal body, which is your mind, withdraw even from that. When the mind is withdrawn and the thinking process is left aside, sitting separate from you, you discover your true self. You discover who you really are. You are pure consciousness, the ability to be conscious, the ability to be conscious and create with that ability, the power to create all experiences of all levels. That's you. That's the real self. That is the soul. When you discover the soul, the next step is even better. That you withdraw from the individuality, the individuation of the soul. You discover there was only one soul, only one totality of consciousness from which all individuation took place. Within it, creating the whole drama that we call life. Such a beautiful experience. This great master's experience with me was so unique to lead me on to these kind of things. And I feel that it's the greatest gift one can have, to see the reality of all these things that's happening, to see how it happens, why we are here, why our destinies are different, and why we are having different kind of lives. To discover answers to these questions within yourself is a big thing. So I thought the greatest adventure ever provided to me in my life was the initiation and the following of the method of meditation that Great Master gave. But then there are other things too. The Great Master never said he was a master. He acted like an ordinary human being. He played games. With kids, he was like a kid. When I was very small, he carried me in his arms, bought me candy from the store. I enjoyed the candy so much. It looked like better than ordinary candy somehow. Because sometimes, I don't know if you had that experience, you have a little piece of candy. We used to have an Indian sweet called barfi. Barfi made from milk. They condense the milk and then they ultimately make tablets out of it. And you take a little piece. It lasts so long, gives you bliss almost. I used to enjoy it so much. Today it reminds me of a story. You don't mind if I tell you a story? Many of our stories told in spiritual discourses are about kings and queens of India. This story is also about a king of India. He was a very generous, philanthropic king. He wanted to make sure everybody in the kingdom had food, shelter, clothing. And if anybody is poor not to have it, the state would provide it. So he would send his teams of inspectors all over to see all households, see everybody has a home, everybody has clothing, everybody has food. And if somebody doesn't have, the royal treasury should be opened up and provide those things to him. So the inspectors would go and give a report back to the king. Everybody's got everything. Then they reported, there's one guy sitting in a forest under a tree. He has no home. He doesn't seem to have much clothing. Seems to be wearing the old tatters that he must be having for a long time. And he doesn't have any food. He eats the berries of the tree and some wild apples growing near his orchard somewhere. He needs help. The king said, why didn't you give him the help? And the inspector said, we offered. He said, I am content with what I have. The king said, this is the kind of guy I should go all out to help him. So the king packed up 14 kilograms of gold, which was a lot of money in those days, still is. He packed up in a suitcase and with his retinue walked to the forest. And there he met the man sitting under the tree. And the man got up and said, Your Majesty, what brings you to the forest? He said, young man, I've come to give you a gift, a present. I want to give you a present. He said, yes, Majesty, what is it? He said, here, sit down. And he opened up his bag and he said, I brought a gift. He said, Majesty, before you give me the gift, can I offer you something? The king was surprised. What can this man offer? He has got nothing. He said, would you like to eat something? The king sat down on the ground and he said, let's see what he can offer. Yes, sure, what can I? Oh, do you like fruit? Do you like an apple? The king said, yes. So this man plucks an apple from a tree, wild apple, little apple. And he looks and counts, this man counts the number of people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. He cuts the apple into 8 pieces. Then by the time he's going to distribute the pieces, 10 or 12 of his old disciples come up. We have returned. He says, come, sit down. And he takes those 8 pieces back. And he cuts them more. Now how many are there? 26 people. So cuts them into smaller pieces. And the king is watching. What is this man doing? Then he gives 1 piece to each. And the king puts that little piece in his mouth. He says, I have had such royal banquets and food. This little piece of apple seems to be more fulfilling. There seems to be something more in it than I've ever had before. What is the secret? And the man says, King, you eaten too much. This apple was good for 1,000 people. I have given you too much to eat. The king was surprised. He said, it's not a question of how much you eat. It's a question of how much you share. Then the king said, I'm very impressed by what you just performed and did. Now I want to give you my gift. So he opened the suitcase. He said, young man, this is 14 kilograms of gold. This can buy you a nice house. You can live in the forest, build a house here. It will buy you all the clothing for you and your disciples, and have enough food for years to come for you and all your disciples. And he accepted the gold in the suitcase. He said, King, I'm very happy. Majesty, you honored me with this gift. Can I also give you a gift? He said, yes, what would you like to give me? He said, King, here's the suitcase. It contains 14 kilograms of gold. And I want to give you as a gift. He said, how can you give me the same gift I just gave you? He said, that you never gave me. If your eye is still on that and thinking it is yours, when you gave it to me, you should ignore the fact that it ever belonged to you. If you really give something, then you must feel it's up to the other person to do what he likes. Otherwise, you haven't really given the gift. The king was impressed by that argument. He said, yes, I gave him the gift. He can do whatever he likes. And therefore, if you want to present it back to me, it's all right. He said, okay, I accept your gift of 14 kilograms of gold. He said, King, I want to show you something. He asked his followers to go and dig under a tree. And they dug under the tree while the king watched, and they brought the chest. And he opened the chest. It had 64 kilograms of gold. He said, King, this chest has been lying next to me all these years. If I needed gold, I would have pulled it out and used it. This is not 14 kilograms, 64 kilograms of gold lying there. And that is why I returned your gold, because I don't need it. And I want to tell you something, Majesty. Why your problems come up? Your problems come up because you count too much. It's 14 kilograms. It's so much. This mathematics that you are involved in, how much do I have? How much does somebody else have? Is the cause of problems, cause of trouble. You calculate too much. This calculation is not necessary where you have contentment. Contentment does not depend upon how much you have. Contentment depends upon how satisfied you are with what you have. There is no counting in contentment. The king learnt a big lesson, and he came back and he said, that was a great man who was able to teach me this simple lesson. So this is coming from the apple. At the one apple, I was having interviews at the Bandara time. People came and I had an apple with me. So I cut it. I said, there's an apple for 1,000 people. So we made a joke out of the story. But the point I was making is simple, that contentment does not come by trying to desire things, accumulating more things. We accumulate so much stuff in our life, and they become a baggage around our necks. We carry that baggage with us all the time. And when do we feel the effect, the weight of that baggage? When we meditate. This is the best time to check out how much baggage you are carrying. Meditate, your mind goes to those very things which you are collecting and which you have been accumulating all your life. The problem is, when we accumulate things, we do not consider that the body has a very limited life. We don't carry anything with us. Nobody has ever carried. Nobody has carried the physical things they accumulate during their lifetime. And when they die, all those things are pulling them back. They're trying to say, oh, I can't take it with me. Now it will be misused. And some of the inheritors, the kids and grandkids are waiting, let the old man die, and we grab the things. And the old man can see the thing being grabbed. What is disappointment at the time of death, just because you gathered so much stuff which won't go with you. The story is told of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, he went to India and he raided all the temples, because the temples had a lot of gold. He raided those, killed a lot of people, raided so many women, widows, children, orphans. He did all that in order to just collect all those. On his camels and the horses, he carried the whole loot back to Alexandria. He was trying to carry back to Egypt. And on the way, he got sick. He had a high fever and he could not travel anymore. And it was in the desert as he was crossing India outside. And there he was laid down. They said his physicians attending on him said, Alexander, you may be Alexander the Great, but now you are sick and you're going to die. He said, I cannot die, because when I was young, a gypsy told me that unless the sky turns into gold and the earth turns into silver, Alexander, you will never die. And since the earth will never turn into silver and the sky will never turn into gold, I will never die. But because he was so sick, he had a silver armor. They spread the silver armor on the ground and lay him on it. And there was an umbrella, a big gold umbrella, which they put on top of it. When he saw that silver underneath and the gold on the top, he knew he was going to die. He said, I killed so many people, I committed so much cruelty in order to amass all this wealth that is sitting on my camels and horses, and that won't go with me. They said, Cain, nothing can go with you. He said, can I use all my wealth to get a few extra breaths of life, few extra time, little moments to reach my headquarters? The king says, nothing, all the wealth cannot give you any more life. Then he said, Alexander instructed, when you bury me, put me in the casket, put my hand outside. Don't bury the whole body inside. Put my hand empty like this. Whole world should know. Even Alexander the Great went empty-handed when he died. They actually did that. When he was entombed in his casket, they kept the hand out as instructed to show even Alexander the Great, who had all the wealth accumulated, he died empty-handed. We all die empty-handed. And yet how much we accumulate thinking it will all go with us. We make relationships as if they will go with us. We acquire things, they will go with us. Nothing goes with us. Let's try today meditation behind the eyes with love and devotion.